Flying Donkey core values. In this video, I want to run through the 4 key core values that we have within Flying Donkey and how they help us deliver our projects better for our clients. Firstly, communication and how we want both our developers and project managers to interact. Secondly, constant learning and improvement. Thirdly, start small and build on it. And fourthly, and most importantly, transparency. I'm Matt Grace, Managing Director of Flying Donkey. Let's get into it. The first point, communication. Now, what I want to do here is rather than just saying communication and you have to communicate more, I want to give some clear, understandable deliverables that we want to achieve with communication within Flying Donkey. So let's look at it from a project manager's perspective and what they're going to do within Flying Donkey to make sure that their role is communicating well to both the client and internal developers. So first and foremost, we expect any client communication to be responded to within 24 hours. It doesn't matter if we don't have the answer, we should still respond to them and say we've received the email and then we're following up internally to try and get it solved. This means that the client is acknowledged that they've received the request and that we're working on it. Now, if after 24 hours we still haven't got a response, we should send a follow-up email to tell them we're still working on it and give them an ETA for the time. One of the key things to understand here is that over-communication with a client is impossible to do, and keeping them in the loop is something that they always will appreciate. From an internal perspective, project managers really should touch base with each team member within their team within at least a 24 to 48 hour period to make sure they've both got sufficient amount of work and they aren't blocked on any of their tasks. Generally speaking, this is done within stand-ups, but internally we found stand-ups to be a fairly large waste of time. And what we do is we try and empower our developers to reach out to our project managers in case of any blockages and if they've got no tickets. But at the same time, we also encourage the project managers to communicate on a daily or bi-daily basis with all the developers to make sure they're interacting with their teams, as well as they're not stuck and have sufficient amount of work. And now let's look at the communication from a developer's perspective. This is probably even more key than a project manager because they're the ones actually doing the work and they need to communicate exactly what they're trying to achieve. Now again, because we operate a distributed team, we can't meet up in an office or around the water cooler to discuss what's going on. And that means we rely heavily on our Jira and ticketing system in order to cover this for us. We have an internal workflow that's actually quite straightforward. It has about 8 to 9 workflow steps in it. And at each of these steps, we've defined exactly what is expected of a developer to put on a ticket. The main process that we want them to be commenting on is around when a ticket goes to an in-progress state. At this point, we want them to be commenting on the ticket every 6 hours of logged work or every 3 days of elapsed time. Because in some cases, some tickets either get assigned back to a client or they take longer because they're smaller iterative fixes. Now, what we really want a developer to do in these cases is to write on the ticket a few things. Firstly, what work have they done on the ticket? Secondly, what work are they going to do on the ticket? And finally, any screenshots or videos of the work they've actually completed, so it's very easy for someone to pick up and see what's going on. The key focus here is for anyone to be able to come to this ticket who has no concept of where the ticket is up to and simply read the last comment from the developer and understand where it's up to, where it's going, and what's being built. This clear form of communication allows both project managers, clients, myself, and other team members to log in and see where any ticket is up to at any point in time, and also see if a developer has understood the ticket correctly. Of course, communication is a wider piece than rather than just the project managers and developers, but these 2 key pillars are the ones that drive the majority of communication within Flying Donkey. Point 2, constant learning and improvement. Software development in comparison to other industries is a very young practice, and that means it's still changing at a rapid rate. Skills learned 10 years ago are potentially being made obsolete, as well as technologies and practices that were used 10 or 15 years ago are now actually not used at all. And what this means is if you entered the workforce with a single set of skills and you're hoping to keep them all the way through your life as a software developer, that's simply not going to happen. Let's think about some of the cloud providers. AWS, Azure, and others were not around 20 years ago, they just simply didn't exist. But now those skills are highly in demand, and essentially it's where every client is going. And so internally within Flying Donkey, our main driver is if you don't know, as long as you're willing to learn, that's what you need to do. And we encourage all of our staff members to constantly learn and improve. Without this constant learning and improvement, you're just going to be left behind in the industry, and you're simply going to have a skill set that's not applicable to today's technology standards. At the end of the day, not everyone is going to know everything at one point in time. What we do ask our team members to do is always seek out those answers and want to seek out those answers and learn what they're actually doing. You're going to need to always be constantly improving and try and get your technology set constantly updating and improving to the new technologies so that you can then deliver better and more strategic options to clients and keeping them at the cutting face of technology. Unfortunately, I can't see this slowing down in the next few decades, and I don't think software engineering will slow down until well into the future. So therefore, it's key at all times to constantly learning and improving, and most of all, that you want to learn and improve. At the point where you don't want to learn and improve is where you're really going to plateau in the industry. That's why at Flying Donkey, one of our core values is to constantly learn and try and improve. All right, point 3, starting small. This value is key both internally and to our clients as well, but we must start small and iterate on those pieces. This comes from the agile methodology where you're trying to start small and then deliver this to the client and iterate on it as you go. It's generally called an MVP or a minimal viable product. And what they're trying to avoid here is huge, long waterfall-like documentations that go out of date before they're even delivered the software. Starting small more also has a side effect that's actually really positive. And that is, people get very overwhelmed if they see large sets of tickets or large documents and simply almost close up and put their walls up. So by breaking it down into very small tasks and also cutting the feature set down of the deliverable, it makes it much more approachable by both a developer and a client to achieve. That's why we really push keeping things small, splitting up larger projects into smaller ones, and making those smaller parts only visible to portions of the team so that they can deliver those key small areas very well and then move on to the next small area and iterate on top of those. If you simply lump 100 bugs into a pot at one time, it's going to get confused as one bug may break another bug, or the developer might not understand how they all fit together. If you group them up nicely and deliver them in sets of 5 to 10 bugs to the developers, they'll actually see how they all interact together and fix them up at a far easier pace. This is the same as well as features. If you're trying to go to the nth degree and get it perfect in the first iteration, you're never actually going to get a piece of functionality to a client. The idea is to try and get it 90% there and as small a bit of functionality as you can, get it in front of a client and start receiving feedback, and then iterate on top of that as you go forward. Again, this gives two key feedback measures. Firstly, it allows the developer to concentrate on something small and therefore they're more likely to deliver that piece on time. And secondly, it allows your customer to feedback to you what you actually want, and therefore you're not going to build anything that you don't actually need for your product. Therefore, starting small is one of the key values of Flying Donkey, and we recommend it both internally for any of our projects that we run, and also to our clients for any products that they're building. Final point here, and final core value for Flying Donkey, is transparency. Now, I'm going to start off by saying something that's probably slightly controversial, but at the end of the day, we are going to make mistakes, and it always happens in the project world. We are delivering projects, things are going to go wrong, and we need to be transparent when these things happen. The closer you can work with a client and keep them involved in the process, and the more transparent you are with how things are going and where things are at, the easier you can form a partnership and deliver projects. We're human, you're human, everyone's going to make mistakes, and we need to be transparent when these things happen. Therefore, we can sit together and work them out and get forward and deliver a product for you. And it also means that we can use these as a learning experience to go forward and build a better experience for our customers. Now, obviously, if we make mistakes, we also have to pay for it. And I've spoken about this in another video where we run a credit system and we credit back time that we use when we do make mistakes. We encourage transparency from our most junior developers up to our lead developers and across all of our team. And that's because we want problems always brought to the surface and shared with clients so that everyone knows the state of the project and we can work towards together and get a positive outcome. The problems are hidden under the rug and not shown till later. They're eventually going to come out at some point, and that point in the project may be a point of no return. Therefore, transparency is a big part of Flying Donkey's core values, and we must make sure that we are transparent both internally and externally to our clients so that projects actually get delivered. All right, I've spoken about the 4 key values here at Flying Donkey, and they're obviously pretty common core values across the industry. I've broken down each of these 4 areas into what I believe to be more deliverable and actionable items, such as communication across project managers and developers and what that actually looks like inside Flying Donkey, from both communicating with clients and also developers communicating on tickets. At the same time, we need to constantly improve and learn at all times, otherwise the technology will simply leave us behind. One way to do this is always start small and iterate on, so we can learn over time what the product is best doing and what the client really wants. And finally, the problems are always going to happen, and it's about how to handle these problems to deliver projects that really is going to resonate with clients. So sharing problems and working through them together is important, but also that we take a bit of a hit on our side to learn in the future. Hope this lets you understand a bit more about Flying Donkey's core values and how we work with clients and customers on delivering their products. If you're interested in building a software product and you're looking for an IT partner, feel free to reach out and we're happy to have a chat.